And now we welcome Miranda Walters to the stage. In case you haven't heard about her before, she's the ultimate brain box, a prodigy, the smartest girl alive.
Another announcer was calling me onto another stage on what must have been my 100th talk show. Everyone cheered and I sat in front of the host next to my mom.
So, Miranda, how did you become so smart?
I was so tired of the same questions over and over again. I was different, an anomaly. And I'll tell you how it all started, but first, hit that like button and subscribe to the channel so you never miss out on another cool story. Hey, there's still one more thing to do. Hit that notification bell. Great. So, my mom's a neuroscientist. In case you don't know what that is, she studies the brain. Before I was born, she had a dream. She wanted to use her research to create the smartest baby in the world. She convinced my dad to allow her to experiment on her baby, which just so happened to be me. My dad was easygoing and he had a lot of faith in my mom's research, so he let her. No one knows what happened in that lab while she was pregnant with me, but after I was born, everyone realized almost instantly that I was brilliant. By the time I was 5 days old, I could count and recite the alphabet. At 1 month, I could speak clearly, and before I was a year old, I could read books which were written for 5th graders. So I became my mom's contribution to science, her pride and joy. I spent most of my days in her lab, and I never went to school like regular children. My only friend was the neighbor's son, Eddie. It was well known among scientists that my mom had done something revolutionary, but she refused to share her secrets. I guess she was just trying to figure out the right way to do it. And one day, she finally figured it out. When I was 10 years old and finishing my PhD in astrophysics, my mom decided she'd use me to advertise her invention.
But it's not the real one. Of course I'm not sharing my secrets. I might share them with you when you're old enough. Anyway, here's the deal. I'm going to sell a microchip that has to be implanted in the brains of babies while they're still in the womb. I will tell them that this is exactly what I did when I was pregnant with you. I'll explain that it's some scientific phenomenon they'd never understand, and just ask them to trust me. People tend to trust scientists. And I have you as proof.
Okay.
Don't you want to know how much I'm going to sell one for?
How much, Mom?
$100,000. I'm marketing only to the elite. That means we only need to sell 10 to become millionaires. I really think this could work.
That's really cool, but I mean, isn't it a little bit dishonest?
Well, as far as I'm concerned, anyone who is stupid enough to believe that intelligence can be bought deserves to lose their money. You're going to benefit from this too, you know?
Fine, Mom. Do whatever you want. So, I became the face of a revolutionary product my mom began advertising to rich people.
Miranda is 10 years old. She has 4 master's degrees and a PhD. I'm sure you want the same for your children. Invest in the smart baby chip today.
She'd have conventions where she'd explain her invention, and then she'd invite me to speak to the crowd, which was always blown away by my intelligence. In a few months, my mom had made $8 million. She was literally a millionaire.
I told you I could pull this off.
I never doubted you, Mom.
You're so smart. Now I can quit my job.
And he did. Lazy man. We decided not to move out and buy a huge house, although we could afford a luxurious lifestyle now. My mom left most of the money in a savings account. I was grateful that although I was still little, my mom let me decide how some of the money was spent. I wasn't an ordinary little girl who'd ask for toys anyway. I was very practical. We did a lot of traveling, and that was so fun. I could speak almost every language, so it was really exciting for me to be in different countries to practice what I learned. We'd been to 3 regions in India, which was where my mom had her biggest market, China, Vietnam, Singapore, Australia, Ethiopia, Nigeria, and all over Europe. But eventually I became tired of it all. I guess it's because I knew too much too early. I grew up too quickly and I didn't really get to experience what it was like to be a child. I used to see Eddie leave for school every morning and I felt some type of sadness. Sometimes I even wished I'd been born like everyone else. There were days I'd go over to Eddie's house after he came back and I'd bombard him with questions. So what is your teacher like?
She's cool. She gives us presents when we get A's on her tests. She also takes us out on amazing field trips.
What are the kids in your class like?
There's Trent, he's the class clown. He's always making a joke about something silly. Then there's Angelina. She's the smartest girl in the school. And she's cute too. My best friends are Jaden, Harrison, and Billy, though. We always hang out during recess. I hope that we get to do the same middle school together, then high school, then maybe even college.
That must be amazing.
What?
To have friends.
Well, you have friends, too. You have me.
I became so obsessed with the idea of an ordinary life that one day I set up a little camera and attached it to Eddie's clothes so I could see what happened at school. Of course, I knew everything that was being taught, and I could have probably taught the teachers, but it seemed really fun to be around other kids. They were always laughing and playing together. But I never got to experience that, sadly. By the time I was 17, I'd almost given up on the idea of a normal life. Until this one crazy coincidence that changed my life forever. My mom was having another convention in the Netherlands. By this time, she was already a billionaire as she'd sold so many chips. People were convinced they worked somehow, so she just kept getting more and more clients. After meeting a whole bunch of pregnant women who wanted to have smart kids like me, my mom and I went to have a snack at a little coffee shop. I was stuffing my face when I began to feel really thirsty, so I got up and went to order something else. I peeked into the kitchen where the food was being prepared, and my eyes nearly fell out of my head. There was a girl washing the dishes who looked exactly like me. Same size, hair color, eye color, everything. This is my chance, I thought. I called out to her and she came straight away.
Wow, you look just like me.
She said, "Yes, that's why I want to speak to you. My name's Miranda, by the way. What's yours?"
Mila.
Is this what you do all day? Wash dishes?
Yes, I ran away from home when I was very young, and this is all I can do to make money, really.
I have an idea. How would you like to be a billionaire and travel all over the world?
Well, I'd love that. What's the catch?
No catch, really. You just have to pretend to be me. My mom might not even notice. All she thinks about is money. So let's switch places.
Fine.
I figured her life must have been really miserable for her to agree so quickly. We decided to meet in front of the coffee shop that night to make the switch. When I got there, she was already waiting. I gave her the keys to my hotel room, and she gave me the keys to her apartment and explained the directions. We exchanged social media handles too in case we got any difficulties along the way. That was it. I was free. I went back to Mila's awful apartment. It was small and dirty, and one room was the kitchen, a living room, bathroom, and bedroom. I'm gonna make this work, I thought. I checked on Mila to make sure she settled in okay. She texted back immediately.
I'm great. Your mom didn't even notice it wasn't you. This hotel is amazing. The food is great, and this bed is so comfortable. Thank you, Miranda.
Now, I'll admit, that hurt a little bit, but whatever. I was gonna enjoy my new life. I got out my laptop and quickly set up a business writing academic papers for university students. This was really easy for me, as stuff like that only took me a few minutes. In about a month, I'd made enough money to move out of that awful apartment. And then I decided that since I'd been deprived of a high school experience, I'd go to college. Because hey, that's supposed to be fun, right? I saved enough money from my business and enrolled in an arts program at a local college. I couldn't believe I was finally experiencing what I wanted my whole life. I made loads of friends and even started going on dates. The only boy I ever really talked to before was my neighbor Eddie, and I saw him as more of a brother. But now there were so many guys to talk to. OMG, and just do not get me started on the college parties. I had a blast. I was in my second year when I met Steven. He was, well, everything a girl could ask for. Kind, considerate, sweet, smart, and drop-dead gorgeous. Because I was smarter than everyone else, I always thought that it would be really hard to find someone on my level. But Steven was smart too. We never ran out of things to talk about, and that's one of the things I loved most about him. In our final year of college, we decided to move off campus and move in together. I finally felt like I would achieve the dream of completely erasing my past and starting a fresh life. But one night, as we were getting ready to sleep, he suddenly had lots of questions.
How come you never talk about your family?
You never asked?
Well, it's normal for people to mention their family once in a while, but you never do that. That's really weird.
Now, you're probably thinking, I could have lied. But this was the love of my life, and I wanted to be honest with him. I told him the truth, and instead of looking upset, he actually seemed to love me more.
That's a remarkable story, Miranda. Now that you're an adult, don't you think you should go back to visit? I'd love to meet them, but I won't rush you if you're not ready.
I figured that if this was the man I was going to be with for the rest of my life, I might as well introduce him to my family. 2 weeks later, we flew back and I showed up on my doorstep. I rang the bell and my mom and Mila opened the door. My mom looked at the both of us and gasped.
What on earth? Miranda, you're back! Please don't tell me I have to move out. You're not Miranda? No, and I can't believe you never noticed.
Nice reunion, guys. Anyway, Mom, this is my boyfriend, Steven. He wanted to meet my family. Can we come in?
Sure.
My dad was pretty shocked too. It was kind of hilarious. We told him about what had happened in the Netherlands many years ago, and they just stared at us surprised.
That explains a lot. Mila is not smart at all. I lost customers because of her.
You still have money though, Mom, right?
I suppose. I'd already made enough when you decided to leave anyway. I'm happy you've been having a normal life, and I'm sorry for all the stress I put you through. I guess I was only thinking about myself and all the money I wanted to make. I wanted to be known as the best scientist in the world. And I think I am now.
I forgive you, Mom. My mom told me she'd give me half of her fortune to start my life with Steven. He proposed to me a few weeks after we went back to the Netherlands, and now we live a happy, simple life with our 2 children. You're probably wondering what happened to Mila. Well, part of my agreement with Mom involved her. Because after all, she's the one who gave me a shot at a better life. A normal life. Mila was given a few $1 million too, and now she lives in a fancy house in San Diego. She's really happy, and I'm happy for her. We talk all the time, and we become like sisters. Everything worked out well for everyone in the end. Isn't that great?
I picked up my lunch tray and headed towards the table where my friends were sitting eating. I had gotten about halfway across the room when I saw her. Of course, she hadn't noticed me. She was too busy fending off all her admirers. I had had the biggest crush on her for so long. I mean, who wouldn't? She was easily the hottest girl in our school. As I got closer to her, I took a deep breath. Hi. I waited for her to reply, but she just completely ignored me and went sailing past me. My heart felt like it had been ripped out of my chest. I felt so sad. But before I go on, make sure you like and subscribe and hit that notification bell too, because you don't want to end up feeling sad like me. I put my tray down on the table next to my friends.
What's up with you? You look so miserable.
It's Haley.
Look, dude, just tell her that you're like her.
But she doesn't even notice me. I just said hi to her and she didn't even give me a smile.
Well, don't give up. You just need a way to impress her.
How am I going to do that?
I don't know, but I'm sure you will find a way.
When I got home from school that afternoon, I went straight to my room.
Jason, do you want a sandwich or anything?
No thanks, Mom. I'm not hungry.
That's not like you. Is everything okay?
I sighed. Yeah, I'm fine.
Okay. Well, I'm just going out for some groceries. I won't be long.
I laid on my bed, staring at the ceiling. What am I going to do? I have to find a way to get Haley to notice me. But no matter how hard I tried, I couldn't think of anything that I could do to get her attention. It's no use. I might as well accept that she's never going to like me. I had never felt so distraught in my life. I felt like I would never be happy again. But little did I know that within the next few hours, my whole life was going to change. When Mom got home from the supermarket, she handed me a lottery ticket. What's that for?
I just thought you needed cheering up. So I bought you a ticket for tonight's lottery. Actually, put the TV on. It's going to be drawn soon.
I took the ticket from my mom and went and switched on the television. As the boy called out the numbers, I started checking the ticket in my hand.
35.
Yep.
41.
Yep.
17.
Got it.
22.
Got it. I looked at Mom. She was staring at me, a nervous look on her face. When the boy called out the last number, I just stood there in shock. Oh my God, I've won. I got all 5 numbers.
Are you sure?
Definitely. 35, 41, 17, 22, and 11.
You won! You won!
My mom and I started dancing around the room in excitement. I wonder how much I've won.
We will find out in a minute. He's about to announce the winning prize.
And tonight we have only one winner taking the whole jackpot of $5 million.
It took a little while, but eventually it sank in. I was rich. I had won $5 million. The rest of the evening was a complete blur. Mom phoned up all our family and friends and told them the good news. People came around to congratulate me and we celebrated all night. The next day when I arrived at school, the news had already spread. I was immediately surrounded by all my friends and a lot of people I didn't even know.
Is it true? Are you a millionaire? What are you going to buy first? You're so lucky.
Everyone was so excited and I was loving all the attention. Then I noticed Haley walking towards me. I was expecting her to just pass by me without giving me a second glance, but instead she walked straight up to me.
Hi, Jason. Congratulations.
Oh, thanks, Haley.
You know, you're pretty cute. Did anyone ever tell you that?
No, they didn't.
Well, I think so anyway.
I couldn't believe it. Is she flirting with me? I could see my friends out of the corner of my eye giving me the thumbs up. I knew that it was my chance to ask Haley out on a date. Say, do you fancy getting a burger or something after school?
Sure, that sounds great.
I was so happy. I felt like jumping up and high-fiving everyone in sight. But instead, I stayed cool. Okay, let's meet at the school gates.
Okay, see you later.
I watched as she walked away, then I turned to my friends. Did you hear that? She said yes. I was so excited I could hardly concentrate on my classes. When the last bell went, I grabbed my bag and ran out of school. As I stood at the gates waiting for Haley, my heart was beating so fast and my stomach was in knots. What if she doesn't come? I bet she's changed her mind. But a few seconds later, I saw her coming out of the school building. Haley, over here. She walked towards me, a big grin on her face.
Hi, Jason. Hope you haven't been waiting too long.
No, I just got here. We had so much fun at the diner. Haley laughed at all my jokes and was forever complimenting me. I don't think I've ever been happier in my whole life. I really felt like nothing could go wrong. But when I got home, my mood changed. As soon as I walked through the door, I could sense that something was wrong.
Jason?
Yes, Mom?
You'd better come in here.
I went through to the kitchen. My mom was sitting at the table, looking very serious.
I'm afraid I've got some bad news.
What is it?
You didn't win the lottery.
What? But I had all 5 numbers.
It was a faulty ticket. Some pranksters slipped them in the lottery machine at stores to fool people.
No.
I'm afraid so.
I couldn't believe it. I had no idea how I was going to face everyone at school. If I told them all that I hadn't won the lottery after all they would think is that I had just faked it. Everyone will think I just said it to get some attention. Then another thought struck me. What if Haley thinks I was lying? She might not want to go out with me anymore. I could feel the panic starting to rise up inside of me. There was no way I was going to risk losing Haley. I decided that I would keep up the pretense and fake winning the lottery. No one will find out. I'll just let them think that I've still won. So I didn't tell anyone. Every day at school, I got more and more attention. I was soon the most popular kid in the school. And things with Haley just got better and better. We went out together every day and she showered me with love and praise. We even had our first kiss. I was so nervous. I was sweating and trembling. But Haley made me feel calm.
You are such a good kisser, Jason.
Thank you. I was so in love with her, I didn't even care about not winning the money. As long as I had Haley, it felt like I had won the lottery anyway. But then things started to get a bit difficult. People started asking me questions about what I'd been spending my money on.
Have you bought a new car yet?
What? Oh, yeah, we've got a bright red Ferrari.
Wow. What else have you bought?
Oh, just designer clothes and stuff. I realized that if I didn't start showing some expensive stuff, then everyone would start to get suspicious. I couldn't let that happen because I might get to be unpopular again, and I might even lose Haley. So I started buying fake designer brands and wearing them to school. Of course, there was no way that I could afford the real stuff, but no one at my school would know the difference, so it didn't matter. Haley asked me for a few things too, so I bought fake things for her. A fake handbag and some fake diamond earrings. She had no idea. I thought I was going to get away with it forever, but one day things went horribly wrong. I walked out of the school gates and there was my mom waiting to pick me up. That wasn't the problem though. It was the fact that she was driving our old car. Everyone stood there staring, shocked looks on their faces. I realized they were all wondering why my mom was driving such a beat-up old car.
Where's your Ferrari?
I tried to hurry Haley away, but my mom had heard her.
Huh? Ferrari?
Other students began to crowd around the car.
Why are you driving this old car? Where's your Ferrari? We don't have a Ferrari? But with all your money from the lottery, why wouldn't you buy a new car? We didn't win the lottery.
A loud gasp could be heard from everyone. My heart sank. I couldn't believe that I'd been caught out.
Why did you lie to us? You're such a loser. You've been pretending all this time.
I didn't care so much what everyone else thought, but I did care about Haley.
You're an idiot, Jason. I never want to see you again.
Everyone, including Haley, stormed off, leaving me and Mom standing there. As I climbed into the car, I couldn't help feeling distraught. Mom got in beside me and started driving home.
What's going on, Jason? Why would they think we had won the lottery?
I just didn't tell anyone that the ticket was a fake.
But why not?
I wanted everyone to like me. I was worried if they found out I hadn't won, they would think I had made it all up.
Oh, Jason, you have to be true to yourself. If you become popular through lies, it will always backfire in the end.
But I liked Haley so much, and before I won the lottery, she didn't even notice me. I didn't want to risk losing her.
If a girl only likes you because she thinks you're a millionaire, then she isn't a girl worth having.
But I love her.
That may be true, but she doesn't love you. She is only in love with your money.
That's not true. But even though I said that to my mom, deep down I knew it was true. I had been lying to myself when I thought that Haley really loved me. I knew that she was only with me because of my money. When we got home, I went and sat in front of the TV staring at the blank screen. I heard my mom's phone ring. She answered the call. I could see by the look on her face that something had shocked her. When she finished the call, she turned to me.
You're not going to believe this.
What?
That was the police on the phone.
What's happened?
They have caught the scammers of the fake lottery ticket. They got them on security cameras, and they are making them pay out compensation to their victims.
How much compensation?
$1 million.
Are you serious? Oh my God, so we are millionaires after all?
It looks that way.
The next morning, I told everyone at school that we were really millionaires, but no one believed me.
You don't think we're falling for that one again, do you?
But it's true.
Yeah, right.
When I saw Haley, I ran over to her. Haley, I'm a millionaire.
Leave me alone, Jason. I don't want anything to do with you.
Don't say that, Haley. I love you.
Well, I don't love you. In fact, I never did.
My heart felt like it had been ripped out of my chest. I watched as Haley walked off, laughing with her friends. There was nothing else for it. I decided to go and find my old friends, the people who had liked me before they thought I was rich. I found them sitting at their usual table in the corner. Hi guys, mind if I join you?
Sure, sit down.
I'm sorry I got caught up in all the lies. I should have been honest with you.
It's okay. We know why you did it. Yeah, we know how much you like Haley.
Well, guess what? She just dumped me.
Oh, sorry, buddy. But listen, we're all here for you.
I didn't know whether or not to tell my friends about us getting the $1 million. I wasn't sure if they would think I was lying to them again, but I needn't have worried. You do believe me, don't you?
Of course we believe you. You wouldn't make the same mistake twice, would you?
I guess not.
Anyway, we don't care if you're rich or not. We're not friends with you for your money.
At that moment, I realized that they were the only friends I really needed. True friends. People who accepted me for who I was, not what I did. And I also came to another realization. I didn't really have a crush on Haley. It was more on the idea of her. I had learned a very valuable lesson.
Good morning, class.
A lanky man with glasses walked into the classroom.
My name is Mr. Jameson.
He wrote his name on the board.
I'll be your history teacher until Mrs. Rose comes back from maternity leave.
I smiled as I envisioned the next 3 months to be a breeze. There wasn't a teacher at school that did not like me. Mr. Jameson, however, wasn't any ordinary teacher. Little did I know at that point in time he would change my life for the worst. Watch my story to the end and let me know if you've ever had a substitute teacher like Mr. Jameson. The first thing Mr. Jameson did as the substitute teacher was to implement a no-device policy. He collected all our devices at the beginning of class and placed them in a box on his table until class was over. I soon realized that he didn't want me or the other children taping him to show other adults how mean he really was. It didn't take me long to realize that Mr. Jameson had a personal vendetta against me. I had no idea what I did wrong. He always picked on me, and my grade was the only grade he ever called out in class. At first, I thought I was being paranoid, but then I realized Mr. Jameson was as mean as they came. One time, while I was absent from school, the entire class got in trouble because there was a fight in class. When I arrived the next day, Mr. Jameson said that even though I wasn't there, I still needed to do detention. You know, the Peter pay for Paul type scenario. I told Mr. Jameson that it was unfair that I'd have to do detention since I wasn't at school. Do you know what he did? He gave me a week's detention. A whole week. And then he called my parents and told them that I needed to adjust my attitude if I wanted to reach anywhere in life. When I got home, I tried to explain what happened to my parents, but they wouldn't listen.
We raised you better than this, Ronald.
Mom glared at me. Mom, I didn't do anything. I simply told Mr. Jameson that I wasn't at school. Why should I be punished for something I didn't do?
You could have stated that without being rude to Mr. Jameson.
Dad said. I groaned. My parents just didn't get it. They told me if Mr. Jameson had to call them again about my behavior, that I'd be grounded for 2 months. Can you believe it? If I was going to get detention or grounded, I would earn my punishment. It was time to pull some pranks on Mr. Jameson. A week after my detention, I decided it was time to seek my revenge. Don't worry, I didn't do anything too outrageous. I must admit, it did feel strange, but so satisfying. I got to class before everyone and emptied a bottle of water on Mr. Jameson's plush teacher's chair. I sat anxiously waiting for Mr. Jameson as my classmates entered the class and sat down. Mr. Jameson came to class and immediately started teaching. After about 10 minutes, he sat down.
What in the world?
He jumped up from the chair, his face enraged, and he touched the back of his chair.
Who did this?
He shouted at the class. Johnny and some of his friends at the back of the class snickered. Mr. Jameson charged towards them.
Did you do this? No, Mr. Jameson,
Mr. Jameson snatched Johnny and the guy next to them and marched out of the classroom. Once he left, the classroom burst into an uproar and we laughed at what just happened. 15 minutes later, Mr. Jameson returned to class and demanded that we pack away our books. We got a quiz that day and every student in the class failed. Our parents weren't pleased. After doing the water prank and hearing children whisper among themselves as to how great it was, I decided to pull another prank the next day. The adrenaline rush was nothing like I've ever felt before. I brought some of my father's heavy-duty glue from home and spread it under the teacher's table. By the time Mr. Jameson came to class and everyone was seated, it was as though they were waiting for something to happen. Before he sat down, Mr. Jameson felt his chair to ensure it was dry. Once that was out of the way, he sat and began the class. When he tried to get up from the chair, his shoes were stuck. This time, the class didn't care about Mr. Jameson's punishment. They laughed and pointed as Mr. Jameson needed to get the help of the janitor, Joe, an elderly man, to pry his shoes from the tiles. Mr. Jameson gave the class a week's detention, but we didn't care. The fact that someone stood up to that evil teacher was good enough. I basked in the fact that I was the one to make it happen. But just like everything in life, all good things must come to an end. The next day, I asked Mr. Jameson if I could go to the bathroom.
Sure.
A smile curved his lips.
If you can beat me in a fight.
I raised my eyebrow. Excuse me?
You heard what I said. If you can beat me in a fight, then you can go to the bathroom.
Feeling as though I had something to prove, I decided to go for it. At least this time, my peers would know that I was the one that took Mr. Jameson down. Mr. Jameson pushed the tables to the side and then stood in the middle of the classroom. I launched myself towards Mr. Jameson, and in 20 seconds flat, I was gasping for air as I lay on my back.
Access to the bathroom denied,
Mr. Jameson said before he crossed over me and headed back to his desk. Everything in me wanted to run home and tell my parents about Mr. Jameson's bullying tactics, but I knew they wouldn't believe me. I needed proof of Mr. Jameson's behavior before I went to any adult. A few of my peers tried to record Mr. Jameson's behavior, but they were all caught. I stopped enjoying school. My grades dropped drastically, and I felt as though all the life I had was drained from me. One afternoon, while doing my homework, I heard the doorbell ring. Then a few seconds later, Mom called me down for dinner. When I walked into the kitchen, my heart stopped. There he was, Mr. Jameson, sitting by the table with Mom and Dad. What is he doing here? I asked.
Hey, Ronald, how are you? Your mother invited me to dinner so we could discuss your grades.
Then Mr. Jameson smiled. I thought his face was going to crack. I had never seen Mr. Jameson smile or speak pleasantly to anyone before. He always had a gruff tone about him, but there he was laughing and smiling with my parents. I must be dreaming, I said aloud. Mom laughed.
You are very much awake. Now come and join us for dinner.
That wasn't the only surprise that night. During dinner, I found out that Mr. Jameson and Mom used to date in high school. I spat my drink out. What? I turned to Dad. And you're okay with him sitting at your kitchen table eating your food? Dad chuckled.
Ronald, that was a long time ago. And as far as I'm concerned, I won in the end.
He winked at me. Did Mr. Jameson's face change after Dad's comment, or did I imagine that? It happened so quickly. After dinner, Mr. Jameson said he needed to leave, and once he did, I breathed a sigh of relief. Mom, what did you see in him?
He's not as bad as you think.
If not, why didn't you marry him instead of Dad?
Well,
Mom said carefully.
I liked him, but not enough to see myself living the rest of my life with him. I had to be true to what I felt, so I told him that I thought we should see other people. A few weeks later, I met your dad, and the rest is history.
You'd think that after he came to my house, mingled with my parents, and had dinner with us, Mr. Jamison's attitude towards me would change. Wrong. It seemed as though he got 10 times worse. I felt worthless and defeated. One afternoon, I sat on one of the courtyard benches before going home. Tears welled in my eyes as the realization came to me that Mr. Jamison knew who I was before he entered the class on the first day. I was the son of an ex who broke his heart. By ill-treating me, he probably thought that it would hurt my mother. But how in the world could she be hurt if she didn't believe it was happening? The only person he was hurting was me. Joe, the janitor, passed by with his bucket and mop. He stopped, looked at me, and sat down. He didn't say anything, and neither did I. I felt as though all my frustration, hurt, and anger seeped through my pores. Before I knew it, I was spilling my guts to Joe, who sat attentively and listened. Now I'm at a place where I don't like school. I can't talk to my parents about it because they think I'm lying. Now we're hearing Mrs. Rose might never return. When did life become so difficult? Joe looked at me and calmly replied,
Everything in life is only for a season. No season lasts forever, but how you react to a bad season can compromise the blessing you should receive in your good season. Continue to put your best foot forward. Everything always works out in the end.
Joe winked at me before he got up and wheeled his bucket and mop down the courtyard. The next day, I went to school with a different mindset. I kept what Joe told me close to my heart. No matter what Mr. Jamison threw at me, I was going to put my best foot forward. Over the next 2 weeks, I worked hard and my grades improved. Mom even dropped off a fruit basket for Mr. Jamison one day to thank him for helping me improve my grades. Things seemed to be looking up. I noticed that if I didn't show emotion when Mr. Jamison mistreated me, he seemed to back off. I started to believe things were getting back to a sense of normalcy, and I was happy to go to school once again.
Okay, class, today we're going to take this class outside.
Mr. Jamison said.
We are going to discuss some of the historical landmarks right here at the school.
My classmates and I were just happy to get out of the classroom. After 30 minutes of discussing the landmarks of the school, Mr. Jamison told us to use the bathroom before we came back to class. By the time we got back to class, Mr. Jamison was there waiting for us. To end the class, he gave us homework and went to pack away his books into his bag. The bell rang, and as we got up to leave, Mr. Jamison stopped us.
I'm missing my phone. Who has my phone?
My classmates and I looked at each other confused.
One of you little rugrats stole my phone. I will check every bag before you leave the classroom.
We lined up and waited for Mr. Jamison to look through our bags. When he got to mine, he emptied all the contents onto his desk. There it was, a phone I had never seen before.
I'm going to call the police.
He fumed as he grabbed his phone from the table. I didn't steal your phone. You probably planted it there when you came back to class. I am not a thief, I yelled. I was sick and tired of Mr. Jamison.
You can tell that to the police.
Mr. Jamison and I yelled back and forth at each other until Principal Gray walked into the classroom.
What is going on in here, Mr. Jamison?
Mr. Jamison told Principal Gray that I stole his phone and he was just about to call the police.
I don't think that will be necessary, Mr. Jamison. I am sure there is a better way.
Is nobody listening to me? I didn't steal Mr. Jamison's phone. He's just jealous that Mom broke up with him and married my dad. Before Principal Gray could respond, Joe walked into the classroom.
What's going on? Mind your business, old man.
Mr. Jamison snarled.
When someone spills something, then we will call for you.
Mr. Jamison stepped towards Joe and Principal Gray stepped between them.
Joe, this isn't your concern.
Joe, Mr. Jamison here is accusing me of stealing his phone, and he said he's going to call the police.
Is that so?
Joe looked up and down at Mr. Jamison with a critical eye. Without another word, Joe walked to the back of the class. He picked up a camera that was hidden between two books and walked to Principal Gray. He rewound the tape and played it for Principal Gray. On the tape, it showed Mr. Jamison putting his phone into my bag before his students returned to class.
If you need more evidence, I have the tapes from the last 3 days. Ever since Ronald told me about his mishaps with Mr. Jameson, I knew I had to do something. I saved up some money and purchased a camera. No child should have to be intimidated by a teacher. Shame on you, Mr. Jameson.
Mr. Jameson, meet me in my office now.
Principal Gray said and walked out of the classroom. Mr. Jameson stepped towards me, and Joe tapped him on the shoulder with his mop from behind.
I wouldn't do that if I were you.
Mr. Jameson grumbled something under his breath before he grabbed his belongings and exited the classroom. I thanked Joe and invited him to have dinner with my family that evening. During dinner, I told my parents what happened in school that day and how Joe came to the rescue. My parents thanked Joe and apologized to me. Mr. Jameson was fired, and we never saw him again. To anyone who's listening out there, keep speaking up and find an adult who will listen, and eventually, just as Joe said, everything works out in the end.